Welcome to this episode of Chattin with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Cory Arbuckle.
And I looked at him, and I don't know what it was, but it must have been something on my face, because whatever he had said, whatever he had done, whatever, I don't know, that interaction right there is what started turning that back. And he was like, he just got this look of utter fear, like he's seen the devil, and he walked away. So instantly, I start doing my thing, writing. I come up with a whole plan. And I remember it perfectly, 100% like I could write it right now. So they get back, and they're like, "Oh, good, you're still here." I was like, "Yeah, I'm still here. I mean, I got to be in this prison, and I got to do what I have to do to make myself in life easy. And if it's having to fall in line and be your guys' whatever, then that's what I'm going to do. And I'll do it the right way so you guys don't have to worry." And they're like, "All right, that's what's up." So, count goes by, laying around, and one of the guys is like, "Hey, you're trying to do something for us." I was like, "What is it?" And probably imagine what he wanted. I was like, "All right, exactly what I wanted. Exactly what I wanted. Bring that near me and see what's going to happen." Sure, they put up the blanket, go back there. He's doing his thing. He got a surprise of his life. Because when that motherfucker got there, I bit that motherfucker right the fuck off. I ripped it the fuck off of him, and he started screaming, blood going everywhere. I fucking threw it. And the other two, they're like, "What the fuck?" They pull down the thing. He's laying on the ground, blood everywhere, blood all over me. And I just stand there, and I'm like, "Who's next?" And they go over and start slapping the fuck. There's these signs for our cells to get the staff to come over there. And the staff get running over there like, "What the hell's going on?" And screaming and yelling. And they get there, they're like, they didn't know what to fucking think. And I'm just standing there. And the dude's on the ground. And by this point, he's passed out. Blood everywhere. These other two guys are, screaming and yelling. So they open the door. They come in, gaffle me up, take me to the hole. Well, first they took me to the medical and all that. And when they get to medical, they're like, they're asking me what happened. And at that point, it was like I couldn't talk. I literally, my voice, everything, all feeling, all senses, it was just like I was there, but not there.
You shut down, right?
Completely shut down. And so they stripped me down, take all my clothes off to wash me, and when they took all my clothes off and was cleaning me, I was getting cleaned off, that's when they seen just massive amounts of bruises and damage. And one of the staff looking is like, you could tell instantly he knew what was going on. And he took off running, shut the door, took off running, went and got one of the staff and all that. And they came back to the cell and they're looking at me and they're like, "We don't expect you to say anything, but we know what happened. And we have to do these tests and we have to do all this stuff because that's, because if we don't, we have to." And I was in fight and I didn't give a shit. Do whatever you got to do. And they do all this test and figure out what happened. And so they put me in the third floor, which was the hospital. They put me in a room. And at first they put me in, because when they put me in a room, they're all like, "Are you okay?" And at that point, there was one, I guess I said something to the lines of like, I don't want to be alive anymore. So they put me in a rubber room and stripped me pretty much all the way down. The is a grate on the ground.
I've been there.
It's horrible. And I'm dinging out, freaking out, all this kind of shit. And this is funny. This is what brought me out of that wanting to. So I wanted some toilet paper. And it just gave me like 3 or 4 pieces. And I'm like, "Hey, that ain't going to work." And he wouldn't give me no more. So I got super annoyed. And I went over to the door and I was looking for things, and there was like a little rough edge of it. So I take it and I just gouge my finger. And I draw a big old pentagram on the wall, right? And then I write out Satan, because they're watching on the camera. One of the staff members comes up to the door and he's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "I'm going to sell my soul to Satan." He's like, "The Santa?" I was like, "What do you mean?" "Well, Santa?" He's like, "Yeah, you spelled out Santa." Because I'm dyslexic. So I sold my soul to Santa Claus. Can't make this up, bro. Hey, and instantly I realized it and I started laughing. And that little thing brought me out of, because I was about to go deep. Like
The trauma you were dealing with.
So, we all laugh, and the staff would all laugh about it. And they're like, "Hey, you're laughing now." It's like, "Yeah." I said, "Can I get out of here, man? I'm not going to do nothing." They're like, "You sure?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I give you my word. I'm not going to do anything." And they're like, "All right." So they give me some clothes, let me take a shower, and they put me in a room. And, I stayed in that room for 3 or 4 months probably. And, they had people coming in, asking me questions and whatnot. And I was like, "Look, I'm not." There was some point along it to where I got put on medication and everything. And, they figured out what happened and whatnot. So, because of that, they're like, "Well, look, you still have to do closed custody time, but you can't go on mainline." And I was like, "Well, what am I going to stay in the hole?" And they're like, "No, you'll go into protective custody." And I was like, once you do that, it's a wrap. You know what I mean? And even I knew that at that point. And it was like, and one of the staff that, he used to bring me tobacco, we could still smoke then. He's like, "Look," he's like, "Arbuckle, look, man." He's like, "You still have some years to do." And
how far into the sentence are you?
Not even a couple months. Yeah, I was just yeah, it was just only a couple months into my sentence. Yeah, it was. I hadn't been in Walla Walla very long when this happened. Wow. And he's like, "Look," he's like, you have your own cell. You just get in there and finish your time, stay out of trouble, and get your custody so you can go somewhere else." He said, because they're not going to let you go on mainline. Like, they're not going to do that because they know that either you're going to kill somebody or somebody's going to kill you. So you have to go in there, or you can sit in the hole for whoever knows how long, because you're going to be refusing a lot.
Once you go into protective custody, there is no getting out of protective custody, right?
Well, so the protective custody there was in a special unit in Walla Walla, and five was what back then it was called 5 Wing. And once you get your custody, like you go to other prisons and whatnot, like the medium custodies and shit like that, and usually, it was all right. You didn't have no issues. Well, it was depending on what you were in there for.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, whatever, man. I mean, I was like, I'm gonna ride it out. I'm just gonna stay in the hole. Yeah, well, that didn't last too long, because when you look at how much time you have and how daunting that is, it's like, fuck, man. It puts you in a predicament. But see, I wasn't affiliated with anybody. I wasn't a part of any group. I was always a lone wolf neutral, because on the streets, I dealt with a lot of different groups. I wasn't a part of any one group.
And then you get to prison, and the people that you were fighting with in the street are the people you're supposed to join up with.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, what?
Yeah. And one of those, what's dirtbag thing about that group is the way they treat you. I mean, that I wasn't the only person that it happened to. Like, it's part of that culture in prison that a lot of people don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to know that it's going on. It might not be going on as much nowadays, but back in the day, it was a normal thing and it was okay and it was looked at as to be okay. And, I think, now somewhat that culture is not as accepting. It's not like that as much anymore, but, things still happen.
It still happens there.
And,
I'm pretty sure.
And this tier porter, he came up and he told me, he said, look, dude, he's like, you, regardless of where you go, everybody knows who you are. You are a fucking legend. You literally bit that dude's shit off and threw it in his fucking face. Like, he's like,
wow.
Nobody, like, he's like, go in there, get your custody, and get the fuck out of here. He's like, you're fucking young, and you still have a fucking chance to get out and do something. What the fuck was that? Did it thumb up?
Yeah. The iPhone does. The iPhone does that.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, the iPhone does that.
I was like, what the hell is that? So I was like, all right, whatever. So I get in there, and put me in the cell, and I'm next to this guy, and he introduced himself, says, how you doing? What's your name? I said, my name's Cory. He's like, well, I'm Kevin. I was like, all right. He's like, what's your last name? I said, well, my last name's Arbuckle. He said, what's your last name? He said, my name's Kevin Coe. I was like, oh, fuck. I was like, Kevin Coe? He's like, yeah. So Kevin Coe is a really big rapist in Spokane. Like, well known in Spokane. Like, his mom was really big into owning the newspaper and tried to put a hit out on the judge and all kinds of shit. So, well-known dude. I know who this guy is. I'm like, fuck, are you fucking serious? So, he starts, talking all buddy with me and all that. And he's all like, days go by and he's getting big old bags of store. And, he's like, giving me stuff. I was like, all right. I'm going to work this punk. This motherfucker's going to be paid. So I played cards with this dude. I act like I was this dude's best fucking friend in the world. And that dude was blessing me with all the fucking store I ever wanted.
Yeah.
So I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to work the dude because if I beat him up, then I know it's going to happen and whatever, So I don't got no money. I got no store.
Get what you can.
I'm going to get what I can. So I'm going to work this dude. So
this whole time you don't have no support from the outside. There's no one sending you money. You're not getting visits.
Nope. Not getting anything. I'm all by myself. All on my own. So I had to figure things out quick. And, so I'm next door to this guy for a while. And somebody on the tier kind of got wind of it and got mad because he wasn't getting anything. And he fucking dropped a kite on me. So they moved me to the other fucking side. Put me in the fucking cell. And my neighbor's like, oh, hey, how you doing? I was like, pretty good, man. He's like, got any cigarettes? Need any cigarettes? Anything? I was like, oh, I got some. He's like, well, my name's Kevin. Or my name's fucking Kenny. I was like, all right, what's going on? My name's Cory. Yep. He's like, what's your last name? I'm like, why does everybody care what my last name is? I'm like, my last name is Arbuckle. He says, oh, well, I'm Bianchi. I was like, all right, cool. Whatever. So a couple days later, this dude's like, hey, watch A&E tonight. Gonna learn something, I was like, what? He's like, watch A&E at 9 o'clock. I'm like, all right. So I'm watching this fucking documentary. And the whole time I'm like, what the fuck? What is going on right now? I'm so fucking confused. This is fucking about the two fucking cousins, the Hillside Stranglers in California. And I'm watching it. So I'm like, the whole time I just feel this fucking nagging itch. I'm like, what the fuck? I can't remember. For some reason I remember this, but I don't remember because it was when I was really young. And then the end of it comes out, and one of the cousins came to fucking Washington and continued doing his thing. And it dawned on me. I was like, God damn it, that's my fucking neighbor. So Kenny Bianchi, the Hillside Strangler, was my fucking neighbor. And this dude was a big dude. I mean, this dude put down serious fucking weight, a monster. Like, super big dude.
Yeah.
But he was a straight bitch. You know what I mean? Like if you're, you know, he wasn't all that muscle for nothing. You know what I mean?
Was he killing women out there?
Yeah, he
them?
was. Yeah, he was straying women and shit. Yeah, you know, just dirtbag, fucking, just a piece of shit, low life. Those kind of people I don't even consider human. You know what I mean? Like they're something else. And so he's always trying to talk to me. I'm like, look, dude, just don't talk to me, man. And finally, I went up to one of the sergeants. I said, look, man, I can't be next to that dude, man. I said, I'm telling you right now, if I'm next to that dude anymore, I said, I promise you right now, it's going to be a bad day. Like, something's going to happen. And the sergeant's like, yeah, I believe you. Something will happen. You got that record. He says, I'll move you. So he moved me. And I was there about 5 years. I was in that unit for almost 5 years. And
is it 23-hour lockdown? Like, what's the routine like there?
Close custody. So it's not 23-hour lockdown. I mean, you get yards, you get day room, you know, you get stuff like that. You know, like they'll have a morning yard, have an afternoon yard, and they'll have an evening yard.
So you're not just stuck in the cell all day long.
No, you're not stuck in the cell all day long. Yeah. So I finally get, you know, some years go by, and I get my custody and get my medium custody, and I put in to go to Airway Heights, because Airway Heights is the prison that's here in Spokane, and that's where I'm from. So I won't go here. And now Airway Heights now is not what it used to be then. Back then, it was super active and hardcore. And I get there, and I was there for a little while. And this is about the time where I started doing my experimenting and studying spiritual stuff and doing that whole thing, trying to find something to keep my mind right, going to school, just doing whatever. And somebody hit me to a game of putting an ad in a certain newspaper and acting a certain way and getting fucking pen pals that would take care of you, and you just have to play that game. It was
get money, everything.
And I was just a cute little fucking boy in prison, you know, so I had a bunch of them. So I was, you know, getting taken care of pretty good. So I'm in Airway Heights, and one of my cellies grabbed one of my letters, and he was reading it. And immediately he goes down and starts sharing it with everybody in the day room. And I come back, and everybody's looking at me and laughing and all that. And I fucking go in and fucking come back in the cell, and he's all like, oh, you fucking fag, blah, blah, blah. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, I read your letters. I said, did you even know what I'm doing? You even know what's going on? He's like, ah, blah, blah, blah. So at that point, he turned around and walked away, and that was the worst thing he could have done, because I peeled him. I blasted him. I fucking just right on the fucking temple, and he fucking hit the ground, and I fucking got on top of him and just started blasting him. I was like, look, you're going to go down there and you're going to tell everybody that it's a fucking hustle and that I'm not a fucking fag, because you went down there and showed that fucking letter to everybody. If you don't go down there and clean it up right now, I promise you, when you go to sleep tonight and close your eyes, you ain't going to wake up. And I fucking grabbed him by his hair and fucking dragged him down the fucking stairs. And I don't know how none of the staff seen it. And I fucking set him on the fucking ground, and I said, now tell him what I said. And everybody's looking at me like, what the fuck? And I said, yeah, man, he fucking got into my personal property, read one of my letters, and thinks that it's something that it's not. I ain't no fucking fag. Excuse me. I'm just, that's what I said at the time.
Yeah.
And it's a hustle. And everybody's like, oh shit, this dude's something crazy. And at this time, the cops seen it. So they come gaff me up, throw me in a hole, lose my custody, back to Walla Walla I go.
So they send you to where you came from. If you get in trouble, like that's the main place where they send you if you get in any trouble.
Yeah. So I got put in the hole, and when I got in the hole, things switched off again, and I went back to that fucking, you know, super crazy. I just wanted to die, and they put me on suicide watch. Well, this time when I went back to 5 Wing, I didn't go there in the protected custody. I went there in the mental health section, because they have mental health and they have protected custody, and they just have them in the same unit, but they have them in separate tiers and everything like that, but they're still intermingled.
Now you're around some wild people, right?
Now I'm around some super crazy people. But being in the mental health part, you know, came with other benefits. And, you know, so I got into that, and that's when I started, you know, they started having me see mental health people and all that. And that's when I really started to, you know, try and get into spirit, you know, some kind of spiritual path. I was practicing everything, you know, I was really like, I was on that ledge trying to hold on and trying to grasp something, because if I couldn't touch something and hold on to something, it was going to be one of two things were going to happen. Either I was going to be a serious threat to society, or I was going to off myself. There was no, you know, because I hated life so bad. And I was just trying, for whatever reason, something just pushed me through. Like, it's funny, I'll have to fucking show it. So we make Tattoo Week in prison. You get the fucking, like a chess piece, and you light it on fire, and you catch the suit and all that.
Yeah,
in the
saltine box. Get in the saltine box, scrape it out. So,
I was sitting in there, and I had started hanging around with some dudes that were some Satanists. And I was like, fuck, okay, I can do that. I'm studying shit. Be a Satanist, whatever. I tried Judaism. I tried it all. I was like, I'll try a Satanist. So I started practicing, getting into it and studying. And so I was like, I'm a sinner. Hell yeah. You know what I mean? Like, in my mind, it's like, if he died for my sins, then I'm getting my money's worth. So I made the suit and all that, made the Tattoo Week. I made my, if you can fucking see it. So I don't know if you can see it right here, but it says sin. But I tried to do it in like graffiti, and it's just, I mean, it don't look like graffiti at all. But I tried to make it as graffiti as fuck.
Yeah.
And just, you know, stick and poke.
Yeah.
Stick and poke sin on my arm and my leg, and I still got it. Everyone's
doing them, right? Once you start, everyone's doing them.
Yeah, well, it's like, that's when I came out to the yard. I was like, hey, are you guys down for the cause? Look at this. You know, we got the burn marks and all that. And they're like, oh, man. So then everybody started doing it for sure. You know, we all walking around with this sin on our leg. And to this day, people are like, what does that say? And I said, it says sin, S-I-N. I'm like, why'd you got that on you? And because I was a fucking Satanist and I was a sinner. And I was proud of that. So this time, you know, I sit in there in the mental health section, and started trying to find something. I just, something was in me that pushed me enough to try and find something and look for something to grasp onto, something. And then I got my points back, and they sent me to the medium unit in Walla Walla. And, you know, going from close custody, where I was at, out there, you know, it was one of those little weird things to where, you know, it could be bad or it might not be. So I went out there, and I was out there for a little while. Nothing bad happened. Everything was cool. And then they're like, oh, we're sending you to another prison. I was like, oh, okay. Well, where am I going to go? And they're like, you're going to go to McNeil Island. So McNeil Island is an island in Western Washington. It's an actual island. Like, when it used to be a federal prison, and Charles Manson was in the prison. They're like, his cell at the bottom of this prison still has a pentagram in it. You can still see it. And it's a pretty good prison. It's like super lax. So I'm like, cool. So I get there, and, you know, it's a lot more freedom, a lot better. I started hanging out with, you know, a bunch of pagan guys, and, you know, just Wiccans and stuff like that, and started to get into that. I got out of the Satanist stuff and got into the pagan stuff.
They had to put you on a boat to go out there?
Yeah, you go on a barge. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, you go on there. So I get there, and it's a cool, laid back prison. Like, the food is much better. It's just a better environment. You know,
how much time do you have left on your sentence?
At that point, I was about halfway done. Yeah, I was halfway done almost. So I went there, was there for a little while, and then got caught up in some shit, and they opened up the new prison, which is Stafford Creek, and which was like a non-smoking. It was when they're really making that transition to getting to smoking out of Washington. So they send me there, and I'm like, I was super pissed. Like, I didn't want to be there. It fucking sucked. It just opened up. It was horrible. It was just not cool. You couldn't smoke, and I didn't want to be there. So I was like, fuck this shit. I'm not gonna stay here. So I fucking buy a cigarette off of some dude and a lighter, and I go to Chow, and I'm coming out of Chow Hall, and as I'm walking down Chow Hall, I just pull out the cigarette and light up the light like I'm supposed to. And the guard's like, hey, what are you doing? And I just keep on walking. And I get back into my unit, and they all get in there, and they're like, hey, turn around, cuff up. And I bounce up into my fucking cell, and I shut the door, and I barge it in, and I cover up the window. And they come up, and they're like, come out. And I was like, no, you got to come in and get me. You come in and get me. So they closed down the whole prison, and they spent 17 hours is how long I held up in that cell. 17 hours until the OC and the spray and all that shit fucking got to me. But and I just dinged out, and they put me in the hole, and then they put me on suicide watch, and they're like, they classified mental health, and they're all like, no, you're going to the special offenders unit. You're going to mental health in Monroe. I was like, whatever. So they sent me to SOC, which is a special offender unit, which is a specific part of Monroe Reformatory that is just for mental health guys, like severe, mental health.
So you're off the island now?
Oh yeah, I know. I got off the island, went to another prison. Yeah. And so I get to SOU, and it's cake. Like the staff, the mental health staff, are really the ones that are running it. The guards are only there for, backup. And I get in there, nice cell, it's cool, and start doing little programs and stuff. And it was like, because it wasn't a full-size institution, prison, and a lot of the guys couldn't function, it couldn't work. Like I was doing like 4 or 5 different jobs. I was doing landscaping stuff, I was doing greenhouse stuff. Because I did a barber class, so I was a barber, so I was going in around and giving these guys haircuts. Some of these guys pretty far gone, but when they see the barber come, they really happy because they know they're going to get cleaned up. And I was, working all over. I pretty much was walking and doing whatever I wanted there. I was like, this is fucking cool. I can do this. And, so I'm there for a while.
So the whole time you're there, no letters from your parent, your mom?
No, I heard from my mom every once in a while. Yeah. And then, a childhood friend, every once in a while, but not enough to really,
no visits.
No. And I didn't get no visits until one of them dudes wanted to come in and visit me.
Oh man.
But
what did you say? No,
he came in to see me. He came in to see me.
Sending you tons of money, right?
Sending me tons of money and stuff, and he came in and see me, and we bought a bunch of food and stay, and we just sat there and played cards and all that. I mean, it wasn't. I think he kind of figured out that it was, but he still liked me. So I was like, whatever, I'm gonna play this out. This dude wants to keep giving me money, cool, Yeah. But so I stayed in that SOU unit for a little while. And then they're like, look, we think you're doing really good. We want to send you down here to Twin Rivers. Now, Twin Rivers at the time was, was considered a safe yard because they had the sex offender program there. So anybody could go there. It wasn't active. It was laid back. It was a really nice, like one of the better prisons you can go to. Like, I mean, you can open your window. Like, it was nice.
There's a lot of sex offenders there.
But they have sex offenders there.
Yeah.
So, but, it's like, there's really nothing else I could do. So I was like, fuck, whatever. So I get down there and, I start kind of do some programs, got in with the Wiccan group there and really started getting into, that side of the spirituality and got my GED, It's funny, when I got my GED, and the day I graduated, my teacher was like, "Oh, we're gonna watch a movie. So go over there and grab a movie." So I walk over. I'm like, "Where are the movies?" She's like, "They're right there in front of you. Grab a DVD." And I was like, "What's a DVD?" She's like, "Those." I said, "Where's the movies?" She's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Where's the fucking movies?" Because they didn't have DVDs in '96.
Yeah.
They only had the movies. So I'd never
Yeah,
seen a
yeah.
fucking DVD. And she's like, "Have you never seen a DVD?" I said, "No, I've never seen a DVD. I'm looking for a fucking movie, VHS." And
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh my God, no, that's the movies now." I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever." This is a little funny side story I just thought was funny, but I did some programming there, got my education, was just trying to better my life and prepare myself because I'm starting to get closer to getting out.
Did you have a plan for when you got out?
Not really. No,
No.
not really. So I got so when you get to a certain amount of time, like 4 years, you can go to camp, which is pretty much you're working out in the real world and all kinds of stuff. So I got to that point and they let me go to camp. And I went to OCC, which is in the middle of the Olympic rainforest. And it was like super culture shock. It was really nice because it's right in the middle of the rainforest. And I got into the DNR program, which is Department of Natural Resources, Wildland Firefighting, and got into that. My foot was having problems, so I couldn't really do it to the best that I wanted to. And it was cool because it's like super laid back, complete total freedom. And they had mushrooms. Like I went up into the yard and I'm laying in the yard and there's no fence around the yard. There's a fence around the prison to keep the animals from coming in. And I'm sitting down in the yard in the middle of the rainforest and I'm laying down and I hear this noise and I roll over and there's this crow laying there. And he's got his wings all flapped out. I mean, I could reach out and grab him. And then he's rolling over and he's pecking at stuff. I was like, what the fuck is he eating? And then I watched him. He's just rolling around. I'm like, there's something fucking wrong with this bird. So I go over and I look at where he's pecking at, and I see all these caps. And I was like, that motherfucker's eating shrooms. And he's high as a kite. So I look at the fucking mushrooms. I'm like, oh, hell no. Psilocybin. I'm like, start picking all these motherfuckers, right? And I put it in my pocket and I go back down. I tell my cellie, I say, hey, man, look at this. And all these shrooms. He's like, oh, yeah, bro. Everybody eats them up here. I was like, I didn't know that. I've seen the fucking crow eating them. He's like, yeah, bro. We fucking eat them all the time. I was like, so I made some fucking tea and everything, drank that shit. Woo. Just ruined my ass off. I was fucking having a good old time.
Did you fight any fires when you were there?
So I didn't fight any fires at that one, but this time down, when I was in DNR, I did actually fight some fires. So, I was there for a little while, but then fucking shit, fucking just like normal, that demon came back, and I ended up losing camp and going back to Twin Rivers, and that's where I finished off the last of my time and released from Twin Rivers.
What was it like to get out that time?
So I got out March 7th, 2007. And I remember I'm pushing my cart with all my stuff down the breezeway, and everybody's coming up, saying goodbye, giving me dabs and all that. And the fucking cop that's walking with me, he's like, fucking hurry up, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, fuck you, you fucking punk ass. I went off on this cop. I'm like, what are you going to do? I'm getting out. You ain't going to do shit.
Because you're EOS, right? You're like, end of sentence.
Yeah, I'm out. I'm like, fuck you, dude. Like, he's like, oh, I'll just take my time. I said, take your time. I just did fucking 10 years, 11 months. You think I care about an extra hour? Like, fuck you, punk. I'm saying goodbye to my people. You know what I mean? And so we get there. And because I was releasing to Seattle, I was going to a mental health program, which basically set me up in a place, all that. Now, mind you, Seattle is the city. That's a metropolitan city. And I'm from over here in Spokane. Spokane's pretty big, but I grew up Spokane, Colville, country. And I just did a whole boatload of time. So, look, I got really, okay, it's the program. It's going to take care of me. Seattle, cool. Seattle's all right. I'll go to Seattle. So I released to Seattle. So they drove me to the bank with my check first. The OC did. And I get to go in there and cash my check. And I remember walking in and be like, hey, can I cash my check? Here's my prison ID. Because they have a thing with them they know. And he's like, the bank teller's like, how would you like this? And I said, well, fucking cash preferably. I mean, I don't know. However you give it to me, I don't give a shit. I just want cash. So he gives to me, I think it's like $200-$300. It wasn't a lot, but it was a lot to me.
Gate money, right?
Yeah, gate money and a little bit of my savings. So, he gave me this money. No, actually, it was probably more like $500 or so. So they drive me to DOC in downtown Seattle, and I meet up with my CCO and all that, my probation officer, and then my mental health coordinator comes and gets me and takes me around to go do all the shopping and all that. And I remember we walked into a Safeway, and I was like, well, I need to get some hygiene shit because you don't fucking take that shit with you. You leave that all behind for your bros, I didn't take hardly anything with me except for my TV and my religious items. So I walk in there, and I'm like, well, I'll go get my hygiene first because on store, when we order store, we always order our hygiene first before we order our food. So that's where my mind goes. So I'm going in there and I'm trying to buy deodorant. And the staff, the mental health guy, is like, do you want me to come with you? And I says, no, I got to do this on my own. He's like, all right, I'm out here. If you need me, just come over here. I'm like, cool. So I go up to this aisle of deodorant, and I look down this aisle, and I swear to God, this was the longest aisle I ever seen in my damn life. I never seen so many freaking sticks of deodorant ever. And I'm like, what am I gonna get?